It finally happened. From provided answers and some good food for the romance girlies. Hi, I'm LadyJenevia, and on my channel, I talk about entertainment media. If you clicked on this video, I am assuming that you already watched From, and you've just had your mind blown over seeing the season 3 finale. But on the offhand chance that you are one of my regular viewers who usually follows my coverage of romantic fiction or the latest cinematic film releases, allow me to give you a bit of a crash course on From, and then we will jump into the major developments of this season 3 finale. From is an MGM Plus series in which a miscellaneous assortment of characters find themselves inexplicably pulled into a mysterious town where monsters emerge every night to try to hunt them down.
Scared the bejesus out of me.
However, if these people stay inside at night with a talisman hung up, the monsters will not be able to enter. You can use a talisman on a house, a trailer, a vehicle. Really, as far as we can tell, any sort of enclosed shelter will suffice. Some of the characters that are higher up on the call sheet are trying to figure out the mysteries of the town so that they can hopefully figure out how to escape and, by extension, liberate everyone else that is trapped inside. But some of the less prominent characters are more so presented as simply trying to survive. They're not helping out with the main investigative ongoings.
I'm considering it. The problem is I hate reading. I get bored.
I first got introduced to From in the lead up to season 2 when I received an email invitation to the show's press junket, and I had never heard of the show at the time, but when I saw Harold Perrineau's name listed, I went, what? You're offering me the chance to maybe speak to the Mercutio from the Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet? If love be rough with you, be rough with love.
Prick love for pricking and you beat love down.
And then from there, I got some other interviews booked with various cast members during the season 2 press cycle and now the season 3 press cycle. And I actually got to watch the season 3 finale the night before I had my interview with David Alpay, who plays Jade, and it blew my mind. But I knew I wouldn't be able to say anything specific about that publicly for several weeks because I still had about a month to go at that point before that episode would be aired and available to everyone. But if you watched my interview with David, you can see me say at the beginning that I had just watched the season 3 finale, and his eyebrows shot up because he ended up telling me after the interview that he had not even watched that episode yet, so that was fun to hear. And actually, fun fact, David also said after our interview that he has watched my channel, which what? Are we only talking about the From interviews, or are you watching me interview Karen Fukuhara from The Boys and showing her my black cat Kimiko, which I named after her? I named my cat after you, so this is Kimiko.
Stop! Actually?
And David, if you happen to be watching this video too, if you would like to do another interview at any point and one that is longer than 5 minutes, just let me know. But now let's talk about this season 3 finale, because after seeing all of that, I find that I am now more invested than I've ever been. And I'm not saying I didn't have some investment in the storylines before this, but I tend to have more walls up now with television series because I just don't trust them to keep going and complete the story before the tech bros swoop in and prematurely cancel them.
Watching television shows doesn't create psycho killers. Canceling TV shows does.
We're going to start with the smaller clusters, and then we will talk about the 2 main clusters of characters in this season finale. The first small cluster is Randall, Christy, and Marielle. Randall tried to defibrillate his cranium because he can't stop hearing bugs, and listen, I get it. I wouldn't want to see bugs everywhere either.
That's gross.
As long as we get a season 4, I reckon we will eventually get a deeper explanation about the bugs at some point that will make sense, because in rewatching season 3 over these last few weeks, as I have been booking more interviews with various cast members, I kept finding more details that were very interesting and showed how precise and purposeful the design of everything in the story is. It almost feels like a well-constructed whodunit, because From is the type of story that will not work unless you plan everything from the beginning. You need to know what your final destination is in order to choose how to drop breadcrumbs that the characters and the audience can follow to figure things out.
It makes no damn sense. Compels me, though.
The thing that I found most interesting from this small cluster is the part where Marielle said that she's not okay, and she doesn't think any of the people in the town are going to be okay either. If you will recall, Randall said something similarly ominous and prophetic to Jim when Jim was confronting him about him hanging out with Julie, where Randall had said something about how none of us, the people in the town, are going to get out of there alive. I don't like that because the fact that you've got two people saying that, and more specifically, two people who were chained up in season 2 while having scary visions, no, that doesn't bode well. And it's far too foreboding for my liking.
Oh my God. I feel sick.
The other small cluster from this episode was Victor and Henry. I was really worried when they introduced Henry and brought him into the town because I thought there was absolutely no way he was going to make it out of this season alive. Sometimes From really feels like a K-drama where they're twisting the knife. You saw what they did to Tian Chen. Oh, no, wait. I forgot. It's the Asian characters that were expendable to the narrative. Okay. Understood. Don't tell me how to feel. I don't like it. I don't have to like it. And nothing you say will sway me from not liking that.
I've had it. And
You know what I've had?
It.
But Victor and Henry, the fact that we got to end this season with this affirmation of love between them, Henry wasn't entirely father of the year when he first got reacquainted with Victor as an adult, but he ultimately got there in the end. And I love to see that. But I'm extremely curious to see what comes after this for the both of them, simply because how exactly are they supposed to process the fact that Tabitha is the reincarnation of their long-lost loved one, and that Fatima just gave birth to her killer? Only in Fromville, truly.
It didn't even hurt. I'm
But now let's jump to the first of the large 2 clusters. The first cluster I want to cover is the one that includes Boyd and a bunch of characters from the Colony House. Ellis, Fatima, Elgin, Donna, and of course, the infamous scene stealer, Sarah. There's a lot to cover here, so let me try to abbreviate some of it. Ellis can tell that Elgin knows where Fatima is, so they all gather to interrogate Elgin. A quick sidebar, but if they don't give a legitimate reason within the show for why you've got 2 characters with such similar names, I am ready for fisticuffs, because it was already enough work for me to try to learn everyone's names when I first began watching this series, and then you have me feeling like I'm at a family dinner in My Big Fat Greek Wedding, but without the quality food.
Nicky,
Elgin obviously doesn't have bad intentions, but he's been highly manipulated by the town. He thinks that this lady in a robe is an angel, which I'm sorry, but you really set that actor, Nathan, up so badly because that woman looked so horrible. How are you going to set him up to look even more ridiculous? And why couldn't you just put that actor in practical prosthetic makeup instead of that awful VFX design? I don't like it. I hate the way that she walks, the way that she talks, the way that she dresses.
Oh, les petits fils de pute!
But Elgin is delusional enough to think that this situation is significantly different from Sarah's situation and that Fatima will be fine. And they can all go home once the baby is born. So Boyd has to load up his John Kramer kit to make his argument a bit more persuasive. Although I took no pleasure in seeing Elgin harmed, I will say that I did love the theatrics of Boyd pulling each tool out and being as loud as possible with banging each item onto the table. Not only because I love a good stunt queen, but because of the deeper implications of that. He is being extra noisy because he is hoping that that threat will be enough to scare Elgin into speaking, so then Boyd wouldn't have to actually do anything more drastic than that. Sometimes you just want to make a loud noise so nothing has to escalate beyond that.
I got a gun. Help. That's the DMX. Who's doing?
Acosta shows up and has to be obnoxious to Boyd, like she always is. I keep waiting for the monsters to get her, and they are simply not getting the job done.
Homicide.
But this interruption was exactly what was needed to free up the room for Sarah to go back upstairs and get to work. Elgin's going to need to wear an eye patch after what Sarah did to him. Do you think that's why they had that entire sequence with Julie and Elgin finding those old outfits? That seemed a bit excessive if the only functional reason was for Elgin to find the evil Polaroid camera. Do you reckon there's an eye patch hidden among all those clothes?
It's fashion meets...
And for as much as the show was building up the potential ramifications of Boyd being brutal towards Elgin, I don't necessarily see that as being something that is enough to dethrone him from his position in the town, because Sarah was the one who went from 0 to 60 in 3.5. She fast and furioused way past anything Boyd did, and once word gets out about what Elgin did to Fatima, and what the monsters did to Fatima's body, and what she gave birth to as a result of that, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to remove Boyd from his position. I think the townsfolk will be worried about much bigger things that happen in this finale. And if anyone wants to be mad at him, well then build a bridge and get over it. There are monsters to slay, and who else would you want to be in charge of things? Acosta?
Ugh.
If we're doing a ranking, Sarah with the flathead screwdriver was number 3 on my most shocking revelation to watch. Admittedly, some revelations are connected because it simply doesn't make sense to separate them. So that entire sequence of Boyd with all the tools, all the way through Sarah turning Elgin into number 2, that was number 3 on my list.
Silence! I will not tolerate your insolence!
Let's talk about number 2 on my most shocking revelation list now, and that would be the conclusion of Fatima's pregnancy arc. First of all, I'm aware that the people who write and run the show are men, but I hope they have some other people around them that can point out that they really need to treat the aftermath of Fatima's pregnancy storyline with a deep awareness of how significantly they have violated her bodily autonomy and how severely that's going to resonate with a lot of the viewers watching and the threats they happen to feel about outside parties feeling entitled to control their bodies. Because the fact that Fatima tried to get rid of the evil pregnancy in a desperate final move in this finale and was forcibly stopped from doing so, yeah, I had some thoughts and feelings about her body continuing to be violated.
Sharon Tate was the last to die.
It was a relief when Ellis and everyone else showed up to help her, but when Boyd went down into that cellar and saw exactly whomst she gave birth to, oh, I was completely unprepared. And actually, that's a perfect segue for me to play a clip from my interview with Corteon Moore, who plays Ellis. It was a bit that I had to edit around in my initial upload because we were foraying into plot spoilers for the season 3 finale, even though I knew I was going to publish that interview after the release of episode 9, but before episode 10. I mean, I know what my answer is to that, but that might be a bit controversial. Do you want me to tell you? Okay, I'll tell you, but when I say it, I'm going to cover like this so I can mute it in post because it involves spoilers. But
Okay.
I would really like to see Ellis interact more with Elgin in season 4, specifically because of everything that happens in the season finale and everything that gets revealed. I just find it would be really interesting to see those two characters have to deal with everything that happened and why it happened. And I think it would be really interesting material for you to play as performers.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that I was kind of gonna say that. I didn't know that I was gonna give away with that. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, even the stuff we have, I think in 9, when we're in the woods. Again, I won't say who, but even that stuff is really. I remember it being really, really good, and what that turns into afterwards is just insane. It's crazy.
Yeah. But it was a great season finale. I really hope you get to be back for season 4. It's fantastic to watch,
so.
and I did not expect to see demonic booty cheeks in the season finale. So I can only imagine what will come in season 4.
It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy. But yeah, nobody did. That's gonna be the biggest shock of the season, I think.
Fatima also revealed to Ellis and Kenny that she now knows that those creatures, the monsters who come out every night to try to get to the people in the town, they were people who sacrificed their children to someone or something that promised in exchange for this sacrifice that they would be able to live forever. So we still need to learn who or what that is. Is it going to just be a basic devil concept, or is it going to be something else? And moreover, we need everyone to gather together and consolidate information, because the other big character cluster uncovered a ton of revelations as well that they're going to need to share with this cluster in exchange for the information about this nefarious sacrificial deal, as well as the return of Mr. Smiley. Stop smiling at me! You know that when Boyd found out Fatima was pregnant, the absolute last thing he would have thought was that the pregnancy would end with him in a deep, dark cave watching the rebirth of Smiley.
I saw that going differently in my mind.
But now we reach the other large character cluster, which is Jade, Tabitha, Jim, and to a lesser degree, Julie and Ethan. So Jim's dead now.
Jim, you're 6'11", and you weigh 90 pounds. Gumby has a better body than you. Boom. Roasted.
No, I'm only poking fun because it was kind of funny for me to watch that happen, specifically because I made a video at the beginning of this season where I was reviewing episodes 1 through 5, because that's what I had seen in the lead up to my participation in the virtual roundtable interview with Harold Perrineau. And I had said something in that review about how I found it ridiculous that Kenny keeps having to lose people. He's lost both of his parents. So all that devastation was happening to the one and only Asian family in this town, but the Matthews family remains untouched. And I said something to the effect of, Jim is right there. And actually, after I wrapped my interview with David Alpay, I mentioned how I had said that in my video, and he said that he, David, had watched that video and thought to himself, has she seen the full season already? And I had to tell him, no, I only just watched the season 3 finale last night. I did not realize I was having a Raven Baxter moment. That's not exactly a frequent occurrence for me. But let's rewind a bit. Tabitha was telling Jim everything that happened at the end of episode 9, so then he goes to Jade and asks him for help, which we love to see. Okay, character growth. It's interesting, in rewatching season 3, I couldn't help but notice how they had Jim doing everything wrong as a parent and a husband, only for him to have that sit down with Henry, who told him to shut the hell up and listen.
Oh my God, I'm gonna hang myself by the Janimals if you don't stop talking.
And then he made that vow renewal over a drink, the one that he had did when Julie was a newborn, and he made a promise to be a better father than his own father. And then after that, he became significantly more patient and understanding. In those last couple of episodes, it was just enough of a switch up so that you were primed to maybe feel some actual sadness when he got his throat lacerated.
Whoops.
But here's what's interesting about the earlier portion of that arc. While he was doing everything wrong repeatedly with Ethan and Julie in that first portion of the season, he was losing his temper at Ethan, forcing Julie into parentification, so then she had to tell him to get his together. And then you repeatedly have Jade doing all these really adorable interactions, the swearing, then apologizing to Ethan, welcoming Ethan in to work on the puzzle, telling Ethan that really funny advice about how a meeting with more than 3 people is a waste of time or something to that effect. What was going on there? Is that foreshadowing of Jade transitioning into a different role, a step role?
Daddy?
It was a cute touch to have Jade say I love you to Jim when he cracked the code by saying the numbers were referring to a music scale, but I have to encourage all of you, if you haven't already done so, to rewatch this episode because some of the lines feel deliberately diabolical when you have the gift of hindsight. When Jim is saying, oh well, it might not be a good idea to play the song inside Jade's place, it's really easy to go, God, there he goes again, Jim's being annoying. And then Jade responds to Jim's trepidation with the line, what's the blast radius on an evil song? Oh, I'm not sure. How many centimeters is the diameter of Jim's neck?
Oh, well, you got a big neck.
I have a big neck?
But when Julie and Ethan are at the diner and she tells him about her unexpected journey, and Ethan then tells her that she's a story walker. What I love most about the way these lines are written is that it oh so efficiently explains exactly what the rules are. A story walker can visit chapters of the story that already happened, but only visit. You cannot change them. No one can change a story once it's been told. That means you can do cool visits with Julie of her revisiting things we've already seen on the show and fill in some of the gaps in information, but it's seemingly not going to completely rewrite what has already transpired, which would become very difficult to follow. The audience is invested, right? But you cannot push them too far off the tracks, or else what was the point in us following along and getting invested for all that time in what has unfolded as we saw it? But this is important information delivered just in time for future Julie to show up and try to save Jim, but fail to do so because Ethan already told you, girl, no one can change a story once it's been told. But I can't help but scoff a bit that her father didn't notice that out of nowhere Julie's hair got darker and half of it has been chopped off, and surely they don't have hair dye in that town, so was that just a continuity error courtesy of the wig department? Either way, the haircut, you didn't see that? Mate, can you please pay attention?
Pensive?
Damn, I was going for thoughtful.
I'll circle back to the tree in a moment, but first I want to ask a couple of questions about Jim's killer. Have we seen him before? Because I did not have time to rewatch seasons 1 and 2, so I couldn't remember if he was someone we've previously met. I don't remember the details of when they were trapped in the trailer in season 2, and I definitely don't remember as much of the things that happened in season 1, except that one pinhead who thought that he was in love with one of the creatures.
Mine is an idiot. Oh. But it's my idiot.
And this killer, he said, I did try to warn you. So was that referencing something that happened in an earlier season or something that has yet to be revealed? Also, that whole, your wife shouldn't have dug that hole, Jim. Are we talking about the giant hole that was dug in season 2, or was that a loaded line referring to Tabitha investigating the truth about the town and the children, or was that an extra loaded line referring to Tabitha's past life as Miranda? MGM Plus, you had better renew this show for season 4 because I will not take it well if you cancel yet another TV show that I was foolish enough to get invested in without a guarantee of a proper conclusion.
Saying I'm some kind of
mental person!
Oh, wait.
I will try to find time to rewatch seasons 1 and 2 before season 4 if the show is in fact renewed, but let's circle back to the tree because this was where we got a few major revelations, one of which was by far the most shocking and my personal favorite reveal of this season. Jade plays the song at the bottle tree and it summons the ghost children, one of whom says Onkui and triggers Tabitha and Jade to realize that that word means remember, and now they do remember. The two of them have been in the town before, and they are the reincarnations of Miranda, Victor's mother, and Christopher, the man who had the ventriloquist dummy. And if that wasn't enough, Miranda and Christopher had a daughter together. What's that you say? Their past lives have been intimate with one another?
Intimate? Is that how old people say sex?
This revelation shook me because what do you mean Tabitha and Jade were previously in love and have found one another yet again? It's giving epic romance. It's giving I have loved you through centuries. I will find you in the next life. It's poetry! Do you know what's especially wild for me is that I was not even aware initially that there were loads of fans already shipping Tabitha and Jade, but a whole lot of people were already dialed into that. And I was not even picking up on that because I was so preoccupied with my frustration over wanting to know what the hell was going on in this town. I wanted some answers. And once we finally got them, they said, okay, you've officially unlocked this level. Here is some epic romantic storytelling in return. But even when I would have to go back and rewatch season 3 to prep for an interview with yet another cast member, once I had that information that Tabitha and Jade are what? Soulmates? When they finally start to interact more because they have teamed up to try to solve the mystery together, sometimes there are these moments where one of them is looking intently at the other one, which if you don't know that they're soulmates, it can just as easily read as them simply being an empathetic person who is actively listening. And from the perspective of the actors who did not know about that reveal until they got to episode 10, because they're not given this information of a full season until they get the scripts to film certain episodes, it may very well be that from the perspective of those actors, they were not even trying to emote, this is my long lost love. It was just them performing compassion. And Jade in particular, he's come so far from where he began in season 1. He has had one hell of a transformative arc. And I like that he still has those variations in his behavior where he will still swear a lot and lose his temper, but then they also show you that deep down his heart's in the right place.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I will clean this up. I am not a litterer.
One other point I wanted to bring up, though, is that if Elgin had dreams of the town before he came to it, and that's why he was panicking on the bus when he arrived in the town on this show, doesn't that mean he's also been in the town before? So who was he previously? Someone we've met in Victor's memory flashbacks or someone yet to be introduced via those flashbacks? And if Tabitha used to be Miranda, and Victor and Ethan have had camaraderie through all 3 seasons, and Jim and Henry found camaraderie in the bar in this season, and Julie's a story walker, does that mean Eloise was also a story walker? And most important of all, how long until Jade and Tabitha reconnect? How many episodes before we go full-blown romance? Not a stepdad, just the dad who stepped up. I'm seated, I'm ready for a he fell first but she fell harder. What do you reckon Jade's move will be?
What's your move?
What do you mean, what's my move?
What's your move? Like, what's your big move?
I want to see what Jade's attempt to woo looks like. Maybe it'll be something hilariously scientific or mathematical.
Maurizio Gucci, you're urgently needed in accounting.
Just renew the show and feed me some good romance material. The Fatima and Ellis romance is undoubtedly cute, but we never got to see them get together because they were already a couple when the show began. And a lot of the fun of watching romance in fiction comes from the banter, the vibes, and the dance of two people who are obviously into one another, but they're stumbling in a whimsical way towards actually locking it in. That becomes foundational to the romance audience's interest and investment in that couple. And now you've gone and done it. You've hooked me on the potential bait of a new romance. I need to see what Jade and Tabitha will be getting up to now.
Yeah, it's called flirting, you idiot.